Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Shad Al Qasas, the Director of Innovation at Al Ittihad National Private School, Al Ain. And today we are going to walk through the Distance Learning Evaluation Tool, Stage 1. This distance learning evaluation tool is used to evaluate distance learning quality in private schools. First of all, when we go through the tool, uh, we need to highlight that this tool is for improvement. And this is highlighted in the second page, which is the main purpose of this tool is to evaluate schools' distance learning provision, and more importantly, to support the school in identifying the areas that require improvement. So the scope of and the purpose of the evaluation tool stage 1 will be highlighting four main pillars. First one is the student experience, learning, delivery models, protection, care, and well-being. So those are the four pillars of the scope and purpose of evaluation tool. The student experience here is highlighting the continuation of students' learning beyond the physical boundaries of the school. While learning is actually evaluating the students' progress and momentum in learning by identifying priorities. Delivery models is to adapting the most effective practice in teaching and monitoring for distance learning using range of modalities. The fourth one is protection, care, and well-being, which is highlighting safeguarding students' health, well-being, and cyber safety during distance learning. So these are the four main pillars of the scope and purpose of the evaluation tool: students' experience, learning, delivery model, protection, care, and well-being. The process of evaluation is mentioned in here, and it is clearly highlighting the three main categories of the evaluation. So what will be evaluated, who will be consulted, and what will be or how we will be evaluating these kinds of priorities. So what will be evaluated? As you can see, there are three basic pillars, three basic areas that the inspectors are going to look at. The first one is students distance learning and well-being, teaching and monitoring students' learning, and finally, leading and managing students' learning. Under each category, there are subcategories that the inspectors will look at. So, for example, under the students' distance learning and well-being, the inspectors will look at the attendance and participation of students, safeguarding, learning opportunities, equity of access, and well-being. For the teaching and monitoring students' learning, the inspector will look at planning and delivery, sharing intended learning outcomes, distance learning provision, monitoring, and assessing learning. And finally, the third pillar that will be evaluated is the leading and managing students' learning, and they are going to look at the agility, the contingency, the communication and engagement, and finally, resources management. So these are the three pillars that are going to be evaluated by the inspectors: students' distance learning and well-being, teaching and monitoring students' learning, leading and managing students' learning. So who will be consulted? They are going to look at students, parents, teachers, and school leaders. Finally, how will we evaluate, or how this tool is taking these pillars into evaluation? They are going to have virtual lesson visits, virtual discussions, stakeholders questionnaires, sample of key documents, and students' work. So this is the process of evaluation. What will be evaluated? The three pillars. Who will be consulted? The four stakeholders: students, parents, teachers, and school leaders. And finally, the tools of evaluation, or how the inspectors are going to be evaluating the school system. It's going to be evaluated via the virtual lessons visits, virtual discussions, stakeholders questionnaires, and samples of key documents and students' work. Going through the documents, we will find the details of the three zones or the three pillars. Those three pillars, again, they are the students' distance learning and well-being, teaching and monitoring students' learning, and leading and managing students' learning. As you can see, each zone has themes. So for example, zone A, that is related to students' learning and well-being, has five themes, and they are attendance and participation, safeguarding, learning opportunities, equity of access, and well-being. While the second zone, which is teaching and monitoring students' learning, will be highlighting planning and delivery, sharing intended learning outcomes, distance learning provision, monitoring and assessing learning. And finally, leading and managing students' learning, it will be highlighting the agility, the contingency, the communication and engagement, and finally, the resources management. As you can see, the total themes will be 13 themes. Maybe the one that has the five themes is the zone A, which is the students' distance learning and well-being. And the other zones, B and C, they have four themes. So these themes, they have they have actually 39 descriptors. So in order to understand the three zones and the 13 themes, we need to read the 39 descriptors that will highlight each zone, or that explains the different zones. First of all, this is a description of each zone. So zone A, that is discussing the students' distance learning and well-being. The zone prioritizes the students' well-being and safeguarding and their access and participation of distance learning. So here, the key words in this zone is the access, safeguarding, and participation of students in distance learning. It also evaluates the quality of students' learning experience and checks the students that students are maintaining continuity and momentum of their learning. So these are some key highlighted points that you need to focus on whenever you are reading the description of the zone itself. While zone B, it evaluates the teaching and curriculum adaptation for distance learning and the extent to which teachers monitor students' learning and provide them with feedback for improvement. So as you can see, there are some key words in each zone. So in zone B, for example, we need to focus on teaching and curriculum adaptation for distance learning. These are keywords. Also, the extent of monitoring students' learning, how we are monitoring students' learning, and provide them with feedback, and not only a feedback, but also a feedback for improvement. So is our feedback valid? Is our feedback accurate? Is it having any kind of impact on students' improvement? This is something that we need to look at when we discuss Zone B. For Zone C, it focuses on schools' capacity to maintain their distance learning provision for an undetermined period of time. Schools need to be prepared for sudden changes in circumstances and to be able to draw upon the support, cooperation, and well-informed of parents and governors. So the key words in here is the capacity to maintain the distance learning provision. Are we revising our processes? Are we ready for any changes? For example, last year, 1920, we were discussing three scenarios. So we were trying to prepare some plans if we are following scenario A, scenario B, or scenario C, the full distance learning capacity or hybrid learning capacity, or the physical learning capacity when the school will receive the students physically. So the school should be prepared, the school should be able to adapt to any change that might happen. So these are some descriptions or some definitions of each zone that will be evaluated. Now, these are the descriptors that we've mentioned, and the total number of descriptors are 39 descriptors, and the 39 descriptors are describing each zone. So, for example, Zone A, which is students' distance learning and well-being, and the themes in here: attendance, participation, safeguarding, learning opportunities, equity of access, and well being. Each one has a descriptor, how it should look like, what kind of key points the inspector should look at, what kind of key points we should look at as educators, education leaders, and teachers. So, for example, the attendance and participation has two descriptors. So they are looking at students' attendance and participation in the learning sessions and activities, and also conduct themselves in the respectful manner. So they are looking at those two main points: attendance, participation, and the students' manner during their sessions. Safeguarding, also we are looking at clear guidelines about online safety and cyberbullying, including who is to contact if we have any, or if the students have any kind of concerns. The students will feeling safe when working online and know what actions to be taken if safety issues arise. For the learning opportunity, also, there are some descriptors. For example, in here, students experience a balance of learning methods such as live sessions, pre-recorded sessions, which means synchronous and asynchronous sessions, assignments, and integrated activities appropriate for their needs, which means that we need to differentiate, and we need to have rich instructions to reach out our students' learning. Maintaining continuity and momentum of their learning. Are we following up with the momentum of the learning? Are we following up on the progress and the attainment of our students during live or hybrid learning sessions? This is something that is really important. Equity of access. The students have equitable access to the school's distance learning materials. So all students have the full access to the students, or equal access to the students' learning, to the school's learning materials. So this is something that should be highlighted. There is a common area or a common drive that students know where to go when they need to download an assignment, where to go when they need to download a weekly plan. So these things should be clear and commonly communicated among school leaders, teachers, and students, and most importantly, parents as well. Have the resources, technology, and skills to access distance learning. So students, teachers, or the students, they have been provided with resources and technology and skills to access distance learning tools. Well-being, which is one of the most important themes, which is highlighting the importance of the opportunities to connect with their peers and teachers, because in distance learning there are a lot of isolation. So are we giving them the opportunities to connect with their peers and teachers? Are we giving them different opportunities and rich opportunities to reach out if there is something arises, or if there is a problem, or there is a communication channel that is very clear for parents and students in order to communicate with teachers, and also providing the students with a lot of opportunities to communicate with their peers throughout different debates, discussions. So this is something that is affecting the well-being of the students. Know who they can contact if they need to discuss a well-being concern, which means that it is really important to have a well-being committee, a well-being responsible person for the well-being issue. So should be communicated clearly. The teachers should know, parents should know, school leaders should know, and most importantly, students should know who is the responsible person or the responsible key people for the well-being. Students are able to manage their workloads and have an age-appropriate balance between screen time and other learning activities, including regular breaks and physical activities. One of the things that we experienced during distance learning is that students are staying for a very long time in front of their screens. So do we have regular breaks? Even during the session, are we giving the students the ability or the opportunity to stretch during the session itself, to walk, to stand up, because this is very important for their health and well-being. Zone B descriptors are also described in here, which is descriptors for the Zone B, teaching and monitoring students' learning. In here, the descriptors are tackling the 4 themes highlighted by this zone, which is planning and delivery, sharing intended learning outcomes, distance learning provision, and monitoring and assessing the learning. And here, as you can see in descriptor 1, the Zone 1, Zone A, most of the things are highlighting the students. So students, and what we can do to the students. In here, the descriptors are highlighting the processes and teachers. So as you can see, and here we are looking at the teacher's use of a balance of learning methods and appropriate for online learning and to students' needs. The teacher should be ensuring that the resources, requirements for the completing activities at home are reasonable and easily accessible. Collaborate to ensure that students' workloads are manageable. Plan for continuity and momentum in students' learning. In here, sharing intended learning outcomes. Lessons have clear intended learning outcomes and activity guidelines. And in here, we should look at the lesson plans and weekly plans. Are they clear? Are they highlighting clear intended learning outcomes? Are they shared with the students? So this is something that we need to look at. Teachers modify learning outcomes to meet the needs of diverse groups of students, which means here we need to differentiate our lessons. We need to highlight the learning outcomes in order to meet the different needs of the students. Intended learning outcomes and expectations for activities are shared with the students and parents. It is very important and very critical that that teachers share their learning outcomes, learning goals, learning expectations with both students and parents. Distance learning provision. It allows, first of all, the students flexibility with their time management and assignment deadlines to accommodate home circumstances. We need to highlight the importance of the balance between the assignments and deadlines throughout the different subjects. Covers essential content in identified key subjects. We need to identify the essential content because, again, the distance learning or hybrid learning processes we should be very attentive to the essential content that should be covered, because we don't want those students to miss the opportunity to learn any kind of key points or key subject points that are covered by their subjects. Provides a balance of opportunities for academic and non-academic experiences. In here, it is really important to provide the students with opportunities to participate in both academic and non-academic experiences, such as extracurricular activities, debates, discussions, forums, PBL, project-based learning, inquiry-based learning. All of these opportunities are academic and non-academic experiences that our students should experience. Monitoring and assessing learning. The teachers use a variety of assessments approaches to monitor students' learning. The assessment should be rich, we should use different types of assessments. Coordinate submission dates with or for of students' work with our subject with other subjects. So we need to have a clear table or a clear schedule for the submission, and this should be organized by the heads of departments and the teachers in order not to have any kind of submission conflicts between the subjects. Provide students with relevant feedback about work, and this is one of the key points in monitoring and assessing learning. Are we giving feedback? And if we are giving feedback, are we revising students' work after the feedback and giving another feedback about the students' work? Do we have a collection of feedback? Do we have any kind of evidences for giving feedback before and after the work? So this is really important to be taken into our considerations. For Zone C, that is highlighting 4 themes: the agility, contingency, the communication and engagement, the resources management. In here, for the agility, for example, the short-term planning is responsive. In here, the agility, it means the smooth transition from a stage to another. So do we have a short-term plan that is responsive and adjusted to the changes of circumstances on a daily or weekly basis? Are we ready for any kind of long-term or short-term problems? Are we ready for if the internet, for example, we had a challenge or a glitch in the internet? Are we ready with pre-recorded sessions? Do we have a specific scenario for that? This is something that is also very important. Leaders review the distance learning program on a regular basis and make the appropriate adaptations and improvements. And here in the leaders mean that the heads of departments and the school leaders on the different levels are monitoring and checking the quality of learning of distance learning program throughout the learning, throughout visits to the classrooms, throughout coaching processes, throughout PD sessions, throughout highlighting the needs of the professional development of each department. So all of these are important in the agility theme. The contingency, which is the long-term plan, considers possible scenarios and options, including resources availability. So the agility is highlighting the short-term plan, while contingency is a long-term plan. Are we ready for any scenario? Are we ready for the physical attendance of students? Are we ready for fully online sessions? We need to highlight the contingency plan and the long-term plan. Communication and engagement, and this is one of the most important themes because it highlights many stakeholders. In here, we are highlighting parents, teachers, leaders, and governors. Are the parents receiving regular communication from the school about their own role, teachers' responsibility? Are the parents receiving appropriate guidance about how to support their children's distance learning, including the use of learning technology? Are they aware of the regular updates about their children's learning? So this is really important, the communication to the parents. Communications and engagement of teachers. Is there any clarity about the teachers' roles, responsibilities, and accountabilities? Are teachers providing parents with flexible opportunities for communication? And in here, the meaning of flexible means we have many tools of communication, and they are clear and communicated with both teachers and parents. For the leaders, we need to be able to address the parental concerns and communication responses promptly. We need to collect evidences. We need to know what kind of process that the parent should do in order to communicate any kind of problems. Facilitate parent support network. We need to be able to support the parents' support network, or to facilitate any kind of support networks for the parents, especially the PTAs, for example, the Parents Teachers Associations, parents groups, emails that the parents should use whenever they need any kind of support, academic or non-academic. So these things should be taken in consideration. The governors, they receive regular relevant communication from the school leaders, provide school leaders with necessary guidance, support, and resources. This is also something very important. And finally, the final theme of Zone C, which is resources management, is the school ensuring that the students have necessary technology to access distance learning? Is the school ensuring that the teachers have the necessary training and technology to offer the distance learning? So these descriptors are really important in order to know what kind of practice or effort or evidence we should collect. So this is the overall evaluation of the school distance learning. And as you can see, we have three basic levels of evaluation. We have developed, partially developed, and not developed. If the school is developed, this means that at least 9 themes out of the 13 themes are developed, and none are not developed. So we need to have 9 themes developed, and the other 4 themes should be partially developed, not developed. So we need to have complete 9 themes developed, and we need the other 4 themes should be partially developed, not non-developed. The partially developed is at least, again, 9 themes are developed or partially developed. For the not developed, 4 or more themes are not developed throughout the 13 themes. So it is really important to know that in order to get the developed evaluation, we need to have at least 9 themes developed and not a single theme not developed. So this is really important, and this is our main target. 9 themes are developed, and at least, not at least, actually the other 4 themes out of the 13 are partially developed. Of course, we aim that all the 13 themes of our school to be developed. So this was the session for today to describe the main process of distance learning evaluation and the 3 zones tackled by this evaluation and the 13 themes of each zone. So also it is really important to read the descriptor of each theme. So this is the big picture. We have 3 zones, A, B, and C. Each zone has themes. Zone A has 4 themes. Zone B has Zone A has 5 themes. Zone B has 4 themes. Zone C has 4 themes, and each theme has descriptors. It is really important to read the 3 zones, the 13 themes, and the 39 descriptors in order to be able to understand the whole evaluation process. So this was the distance learning evaluation tool description. This was Shadi Al-Qassas, the Director of Innovation at Al-Ittihad National Private School, Al Ain. Thank you.